Who else do I need to leave on? You and Jason. Good evening. This October 18th, 2021 meeting of the Williamson County School Board is called to order. Board members, will you please record your attendance? And I'm going to ask for our two members who are attending remotely as per board policy to record your attendance. Ms. Apriya, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Mr. Brown?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, and I'm going to ask our deputies, Deputy Jody Cooper and Deputy Doug Oler, to please lead us. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to, yes. Before we move on to items of particular public interest, Mr. King, will you please record the attendance into the record?
Yes, we have 11 present, one absent.
Let me ask you to do that again. We're having a few little tech issues up here. Please go ahead.
Yes, we have 11 present, one absent.
Thank you, Mr. King. Now we'll move on to items of particular public interest, which is our public comment portion of the evening. Public comment is one of the several ways that the Williamson County School Board hears from constituents. Other avenues include emails, phone calls, and in-person meetings. Per board policy, 30 minutes is placed on the agenda for the chair to recognize individuals to make comments. And just want to make sure that all of our speakers understand that this is a time to make a statement or a comment. Just like with other public boards, our board does not respond to your comments, but it does allow you the opportunity to make them. At the discretion of the chair, this 30 minutes may be extended. Williamson County residents and WCS employees do have first priority. And in the event that time remains, the chair may allow non-residents to speak. All persons addressing the board will state his and her name. You've already given your address, and provide the name of the organization or group you represent if you are representing a group tonight. The board reserves the right to limit the time of any speaker, and the chair has authority to terminate the remarks of any individual who is disruptive or who does not adhere to board rules. Business decorum is expected. No speaking out or clapping is allowed as a person speaks, including while members of the board are speaking. Disruptive individuals may be asked to leave and will be asked to leave on first instance and will be escorted out by a deputy. No signs are allowed in the audience. And I will now call you out up individually to speak. We have 8 speakers tonight, so you'll all have 3 minutes to speak. Please be ready once your name is called. Our board vice chair is the timekeeper, Mr. Haw, over here, and he will let you know when your time is up. As always, if you would like to be escorted out by a deputy, please approach one of the deputies and let either one know, and they'll be happy to assist you. So our first speaker tonight is Karen Rail.
Hi, I'm here to represent Williamson County students who have been recently threatened over loudspeakers, who have been intimidated to defy their parents by being handed masks before they enter their classroom, who have been given detention even though Williamson County schools have said that that wouldn't happen. I'm here for parent choice. Your back and forth mask policy pits teachers and administration against students and parents. Your decisions are holding our kids hostage to litigation. At the 7/13/21 board meeting, timestamp 1/17/52, this board said, "Parents are the ultimate decision makers for their child, and we want to respect that." You said at that meeting that you serve 41,000 plus students, all of whom have individual names, all of whom have individual needs. A blanket answer, mask mandate, will never benefit all individual students that you have committed yourself to serving. You are ignoring the needs of your students that have anxiety, that have depression, autism, or the student that is just happier and more successful without a mask, thus protecting their mental health. Masks hide all the positive emotions. No smiles. These kids are in school all day. Kids who are forced to wear masks all day don't get to see the positives. You guys are hurting their mental health. Using your own words, Jason, parents are the ultimate decision maker for their child, and I know what is best for mine, so let me do it.
Our next speaker is Rebecca Bennett.
Hi, Rebecca Bennett, District 3 with our religious friend. 12 years ago, I wanted nothing more than to work for Williamson County Schools. I was a product of this system, and so I was excited to continue the amazing works that had been bestowed upon me. Never did I ever imagine I would be begging to get out only 7 years into my career. I could no longer work for a school board that sets unrealistic expectations. Not only have they always been unrealistic, but even more so now with learning gaps and various hurdles due to the pandemic. I can no longer work for a school board that only cares about pushing students through the system and being the best, when ultimately its detriment falls upon those students who truly do struggle. I refuse to work for a school board that values their own power over parental choice, forcing teachers to choose to either educate or to be the mask police. You lost one heck of a teacher because of your failure and leadership. My kids miss me, my parents miss me, and that's because you all did not think of anybody other than yourself and government overreach. I'm hoping that more teachers will stand up to this madness, give parents a choice, stop pushing kids through the system, and truly invest in every single child's education, not just the lowest of lows or the highest of highs, but to every child who learns differently and at different speeds. That's when Williamson County will be the best.
Our next speaker is Julie Nimmons.
Julie Nimmons, and you do have my address, so I'm all set. Thank you. It is with great respect that I speak to you this evening. I served for over a decade on the Board of Trustees for Eastern Illinois University. It is my belief that because you ran or you sought to serve, you recognize and accept this is a position which requires a high level of leadership, transparency, and accountability. My observation is there is a lack of willingness to ask tough questions when experts are cited. Is this due to a lack of knowledge concerning the question placed before the board? Ladies and gentlemen, we know what has been happening in Loudoun County, Virginia with their school board. We know what is happening in Nebraska with their state education standards, specifically their health education standards. There are many of us investing our time to be well informed, and we have the same expectations of you. We will live up to our responsibility of upholding the Constitution and the statutes of the United States of America and the state of Tennessee. And we have the same expectations for you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ravita Raman.
Hello, welcome back from fall break. I am Ravita Rockman, and I'm here speaking on behalf of One Wilco. One thing that I wanted to share was I'm a little bit concerned about some of the expectations that students of color are experiencing. Should it be a normal expectation in 2021 for Black students to be called the N-word or experience racism as frequently as some kids are experiencing here in WCS? We are 2 months into the school year, and 4 kids that I know personally have experienced being called the N-word. All of these encounters took place on the school bus. While I do not expect WCS to have all the answers, there are solutions that can be implemented by WCS. I'm grateful for the findings of Fostering Healthy Solutions, which are highlighting what we've been known to be true. But I'd like to continue to encourage you all to seek solutions and make efforts to stifle this racism that is completely unacceptable. While these kids of color are not currently the squeaky wheel, these are still problems that need to be addressed to ensure the safety of all students in the district. I'm asking the board to continue to prioritize these efforts with transparency to families and continue to seek out systems to protect students from racial harassment and bullying. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tajel High.
Hello, my name is Tajel High. I'm with One Wilco. Thank you for your continued efforts to hear from students and parents as it relates to your role in creating more equitable and safe learning environments for all of our students. Your continued investment of time and other resources to more adequately understand the areas of opportunities for Williamson County schools, especially as it relates to children of color, is needed. The Fostering Healthy Solutions report provides a good framework to directionally prioritize resources. I look forward to learning more about the plan of action to be taken by the Williamson County School administrators, as well as the board's continued support. From the listening session that I participated in, the community was overwhelmingly in support. But I will not discount the few community members that participated that were against inclusion, against listening to others for understanding, and presented many arguments that sound like segregationists of our history. Those voices matter and should further show us why these efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion are needed. What I'm asking for in response to the trends of Williamson County not always adequately providing fair opportunity for students of color and adequately addressing incidents in our schools that are harming our kids, I don't want a response that harms other children. I've heard parents come up here and say that we're looking for solutions that hurt other kids. That is not what I'm asking for. I do think it's a shame that parents would pit kids against each other, even though we all know we want exactly the same things for our kids, a fair shot. What I am asking for is for us to come together to acknowledge that we have clear data that shows us we have disparate treatment and outcomes for kids based on race in our county. I believe that us as a group can find solutions to help us meet these obligations we have to all of our students, not just some of the students, not just many of the students, but all of our students. Our educators and staff are asking us for resources to be better. To clarify, I'm pushing for equity in the most basic of ways, fairness and justice in the way people are treated, one of the foundational principles of our country. For others to try to redefine equity as something to be afraid of or wrong is puzzling to me personally. I think they have to consider why they feel that way, but understand that their personal feelings can't drive policy for a county. We should consider lessons learned from our neighboring county, Rutherford County. Let's please not fall into the trap of allowing folks like a Judge Donna Scott Davenport to direct how we treat our kids. We all commonly say that we would never let things like this happen, but too often adults are failing kids. It's easy to pull her out and signal out her individual action as though she was an isolated actor. But remember, there were systems of people and elected officials that helped those acts to occur. She was purposefully doing things that were harming children of color, and adults like us stood around and allowed it to happen. Let's take a look at where we are as a county and address any tendency that we have to allow behavior and thinking like Davenport's to seep into the decision-making for our kids. This is not a zero-sum game. We can all have a fair experience. I don't
Time.
believe there's a
Time.
limit to kindness, fairness, or equity. Thank you.
Time. Our next speaker is Michael Proctor.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Mike Proctor. A little over a year ago, I moved from the Bellevue area down to Spring Hill, and I was hoping to escape what I saw happening in Metro Nashville public school systems. I have 4 kids in the school system. I realized very quickly that the tyranny had taken over to a point that there was no escaping it unless I moved. Lo and behold, I come down to Williamson County, and I find the same tyranny has creeped into this county. The exact same thing. Our kids have a higher risk of getting hit by lightning, a bus, or getting killed by the flu than this COVID-19 pandemic. 0.00001% chance. And you all have decided that suffocating kids upon a piece of cloth is the right idea and the right call to make. It is not. There are numerous studies that show the piece of cloth on your face is about as useful as trying to keep mosquitoes in and out of your yard with a chain link fence. There are also studies that show the damage done to kids' psychological well-being and their physical well-being by trapping their oxygen against their face for 7 to 8 hours a day. It's wrong. And the result of all this is tremendous, and I don't think we'll see the effects of it for years to come. The numbers are historically low, and yet these mandates are still in place and even extended. It amazes me that this is happening here. Our numbers are historically low. This is like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. Every time we think we've reached a certain point, the football gets pulled and we're flat on our back again. It's old. It's getting old. There's an uneven application of rules. There are many people that don't have exemptions on file, including my own kids, because I asked that they get pulled. And yet others who have done the same thing are stuck in ISS isolation from kids for 7, 8 hours a day. It's not right. Your search for more power and control has woken lions from their sleep. People that wanted nothing to do with politics are waking up, myself included. You have the chance. You have the chance to rescue your reputation. You can still make right choices.
Time.
Those that sought to control others throughout history were never the good guys. I will make sure that either of you are listening.
Time.
Or we'll find people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kristen McKinney.
Kristen McKinney, District 5. These are my 2 children. Before I begin with my remarks, I want to remind you of some of your own words here. Hopefully this will play for you.
Mr. Galbraith. Jason, I just need to know what's the disciplinary action for somebody who's not going to wear a mask? And what is the process by which a parent would tell a teacher or a principal that they were claiming one of the exceptions under the policy?
Well, two very different questions, but the first one, I think Mike Fletcher described it very well, that we're trying to build a culture, and so I do think that's going to be handled a little bit differently at the secondary and elementary level. I'll give you a quick example of what it's not going to be. Giving somebody detention where you're sitting with people more often is probably not the best choice if
Putting kids in detention for not wearing a mask is not probably the best solution, is what you said, Mr. Golden. My 2 amazing children here, who have a history of academic success and no behavioral problems, spent today, their 6th day, in-school suspension, with no instruction taking place, no contact with other kids, They went to the library on a field trip for 15 minutes the week before fall break, and the assistant principal came and asked them to leave because there were other kids in the library, and the point of ISS is that they don't have contact with other kids. My kids are not receiving instruction. This one here this morning was very concerned because her grades are already slipping, and she's concerned about what that's going to do long term. This is not the culture that we signed up for in Williamson County Schools. My children deserve better. Having them isolated for 6 days and indefinitely at this point is completely wrong, it's inhumane, and it solves no problems. There are at least 400 kids in their school right now who walk around the school without masks all day long because their parents signed a piece of paper. A paper against an unlawful mandate. And because my kids don't have that piece of paper, and as their parent, I will not choose to put them in harm by putting a mask on them. They're being isolated. Sensory deprivation, they're not allowed to speak. They get 2 pre-scheduled bathroom breaks a day, and they come home on a good day and say they got to take a 15-minute walk. That's the education they're getting in Williamson County schools? I would really like one of you to answer for me what kind of success this is setting them up for in the future. And yes, I'm angry, because these are the most precious things in my life. And what you are doing to them through your policies is evil and wrong. And I'm not making them go to ISS. They are part of this decision because they understand the value of this fight.
Time.
Our next speaker is Jeff Price.
Jeff Price, here to represent my kids and the kids of this county and the kids across this country, across the globe, really. That was an awesome speech, and I feel very sorry for your children. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous that these kids have to go through this because you're not giving them a choice. It's ridiculous. We pay our taxes. You work for us. It's not the other way around. I'm tired of this. It is beyond ridiculous, and it needs to stop. So for all of you that are standing up for our kids, I appreciate that very much. The rest of you, get used to being here. I'm going to be here. Every meeting, we're coming for your seats. You guys will no longer be here anymore. It's atrocious that you're treating children like this. It's unbelievable. And you just sit there like nothing's going on. Politics do not belong in schools. Let kids be kids. I'm tired of this. We shouldn't have to be here. And I'm collecting a lot of people now, and there's going to be a lot more people that are going to start showing up here. People that don't have kids in this district, nothing. They're tired of it too. I've had so many phone calls, text, emails from these people, and they're going to start showing up too. And we're going to continue to have this conversation until you guys change your minds and let these kids live their lives. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And none of you guys and ladies have anything to say about it, except for the ones that are speaking up. I was here at the last meeting, and you guys discussed for several minutes, the numbers are going down. What did you decide to do? Let's mandate the mask through January. Wow. Think about that. Think about it. Unbelievable. And we pay you guys to be up here, right? We voted for you. That was a mistake on my part. I'll never do that again. Unbelievable. Shame on all of you that are forcing these kids to wear masks. Shame on you.
That concludes our public speaking for tonight. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda of tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Welch makes the motion to approve. Is there a second? I think I saw Ms. Durham. Ms. Durham seconds. Board members, any discussion about tonight's agenda? If not, then please cast your vote to approve the agenda. Mr. Brown, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Apria, how do you vote?
Aye.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, board members. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Mitchell makes the motion. Mr. Wimberly makes the second. Board members, is there any discussion? If not, please cast your votes. And Mr. Brown, how do you vote, please?
Aye.
Ms. Apria, how do you vote?
Aye.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, and with that approval, you've approved the September 20th, 2021 school board meeting minutes, the recommendation for field trip fee requests. You've approved the ePlans America Rescue Plan, the APR Homeless 2.0 of 2022, and you've also approved to transfer funds to the extended school program and cafeteria funds. The next item on the agenda is communications to the board, and that starts with our superintendent's report. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all know, I think we all know that we finished the first quarter just right before fall break. And I tell you, I'm really proud of our teachers and students and the work they did. We have over 3,500 teachers who are doing that hard work. And y'all, it is hard work on a daily basis. One of the really neat things that I alluded to at our work session, but I want to speak to again just briefly, is the importance of differentiating instruction, where our teachers are spending time talking with each other about individual students' needs. And of course, we have students with disabilities with IEPs, but we also work to differentiate instruction through what you all know as RTI, response to intervention. Every day, the teachers are drilling down to meet individual student needs in the classroom. It's hard work, but it's worth it. And I'm really proud of where they've been this first quarter. I do want to let you know also that we are still under that federal court order. As you know, I'm estimating 5-6 weeks ago, you all voted to require mask subject to the governor's executive order 84 with that opt-out. Subsequent to that, there was a lawsuit filed, actually 2 different lawsuits, and there's a temporary order by a federal judge enjoining the governor's opt-out here in Williamson County and in Franklin Special School District. The state Attorney General's office is arguing that against the plaintiffs. Right now, we are still under that federal court order where we must require masks. And that's part of living in the USA. Those federal judges have that power. We don't have a timetable, but we will definitely keep you informed about the decision of that federal judge and the temporary order related to that. I think many of you also know there is a similar order in the Eastern District for Knox County, a similar order in the Western District in Shelby County related to that. But that's where we are. Where we are with case numbers, y'all, it's encouraging. The case numbers have gone down. We've been reporting that on our website. You can find that in county and city information as well. I am very encouraged by the numbers. We are posting the reported cases from our families in the health department for those who are members of our community twice a week on our website. We have that broken down school by school, and you can see those numbers. Again, right now we're under that federal mask requirement. Next, I want to mention to you that you saw on the consent agenda the reference to the cafeteria and school-age child care programs. They finished last year in the net positive. We did not need to transfer any money temporarily to them. And school lunch numbers are really increasing this fall. So it's been a popular thing with our students. We're excited about that. But we still have some significant challenges that are, from everything we can see, market related to COVID. The supply chain continues to be a challenge for our food service folks. The effort continues to be there to set menus. You may notice from time to time you go to a restaurant, they might have a posting that certain items might not be available. We face those similar issues with food service. Likewise, we continue to face challenging staffing issues. I want to thank you for that decision you made a month ago related to our special education teachers' assistants. We have seen some progress towards increasing our staffing, so it's been a net positive. We've taken a baby step towards growing that. But those of you who are in business, you see those reports, you may experience it yourself. We are not immune to those staffing challenges that are happening across the state, and from everything I read, at least through secondary sources, across the nation. And so we talked about goals last month. And I want to let you know that next month I will give you an update on the goals that you set for me. And I want to specifically mention one goal included a pay plan to address market changes. We've already taken that step last month, and we're going to continue to make those efforts related to that. I also continue to take action steps to improve students' sense of safety here at schools. So be prepared for that update. And I intend to give you about 2 more updates over the course of this school year on my goals, rather than just have a final discussion in June or so. So with that, I want to give you two other specific items. One is local, one is statewide. We have made a change to our public comment structure, which allows for online sign-up. This month, we included the online sign-up plus the opportunity to sign up physically here. We're going to do a review on how that went, potentially tweak some things based on what we've heard from some community members about that process. And right now, our plan is to make it exclusively an online sign-up next month. So we've been pretty pleased, just generally speaking. The majority of the speakers tonight did sign up online, so it was encouraging to know that they had that opportunity and they were able to go through that process. At the state level, I want to let you know that there's been an announcement since we last met that they are setting up at the Tennessee Department of Education a review of the funding structure for schools, what we think of as the BEP, the Basic Education Program. As we understand it, they're going to spend the next year with committees reviewing the structure and how they fund. From rural to urban to everything in between, to high growth to low growth, to some of the counties that have decreasing enrollment, there's going to be a really detailed, broad discussion at all levels on funding for the state. And so just expect to hear that over the next year or so, some updates on that. The Oversight Committee, I think they actually term it a steering committee, was just announced earlier today from the state, so you can definitely Google that steering committee with some of the state leaders, especially legislators who are involved in that. So with that, Madam Chair, that is my report, and I think we're ready for the next item.
Okay. Thank you. And our next item is student, staff, and school spotlights. Ms. Birdsong.
Thank you, board members. We have lots to celebrate again this evening. We are going to start with Clovercroft Elementary School, which has been named a National Blue Ribbon School. Congratulations to Dr. Vest and her staff for this national accomplishment. They will be continuing their celebration later on this week. Now, we are going to move into the Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association champions. You may remember that this is the first year we have joined the Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association. And we did pretty darn good, if I do say so, myself in cross country. So let's start with Legacy Middle School. This is Larkin Johnson, our state championship for Class A girls in the individual category. And also from Legacy, Dylan Lookingbill, boys individual state championship. And the whole team from Legacy Middle brought home the state championship for the Class A girls. Larkin Johnson, Janie Reams, Lane Melton, Kate Seymour, Ellie Seymour, Brennan McCain, and Lauren Gupton. Their coaches are Kristen Reams and Karen Rode. Not to be outdone, Thompson's Station Middle School brought home the Class A boys championship. Dylan Wieringa, Sam Sklinka, Preston Wildman, Graham Harrell, Bryson Mabey, Channing Riz, Tyler Bell, Miles Holloman, and James Grobert. Ryan Wagner is their coach. And then in 2A, the Brentwood Middle School girls brought home the state championship. Leah Banovic, Lauren Banovic, Rosie DeVree, Talia Williams, Mary Alden Miller, Ollie Fielder, Isley Cower, Kristen Himes, Finley DeTrey, Sydney Day, and Violet Roche. Their coaches are Nathan Cummings, Claire Berg, Allie Bradshaw, and Larry Bringard. And guess what? The boys also got home the state championship from Brentwood Middle School. Keller Vaughn, Hudson McKnight, Luke Matheny, Andrew Spector, Cutler Embry, David Van Dyke, Kellen Nash, John Schaefer, Luke Heron, Beck Fielder, and Jacob Porter. At the high school level and in golf, this is your Division I AA girls individual champion from Franklin High School, Sophia DiPaolo. Her coach is John Whipple. And in the boys AA team championship, here are your state champions from Brentwood High: Bryce Calloway, Nolan Griggs, Sam Johnson, Troop Wallace, Grant Clunan, Jacob Purfoy. Chris Saunders is their coach. Congratulations to all of our state champions.
Thank you, Ms. Birdsong. I need to go back and pick up a couple of questions that I see here. Mr. Welch?
Come on. Thank you. I guess just to start, that's pretty amazing that we've 1 year in TMS AA and we've swept all the state championships. I hope they don't ask us to leave next year after we've come in and dominated it. Mr. Golden, I wanted to ask you sort of a follow-up to something that we heard at our board meeting last month. We had several speakers kind of come. There was some rumors that had been started in the community making accusations of adults making accusations against students. These are 14, 15, 16-year-old children. And it was accusations at one of our schools during a homecoming parade that one of the floats, and I'm quoting here, there was kissing and groping in front of elementary children. There was handing out material of a sexual nature. Nothing that I saw, that any of us saw, that came through, at least to the full board, really backed up some of these. We saw a quick peck between two students on the high school campus, but nothing that matched this. And then as it progressed to the board meeting, the rumors just really expanded even more. Students were exposing themselves, apparently. There was grooming going on, which is, criminal activity. There were individuals who were calling for the firing of the administrator of that particular school, who is really one of our outstanding school leaders, who has, through her leadership, has had several of her assistants go on and become principals at elsewhere. And again, I want to make this point. This is adults throwing these accusations out against 14, 15, 16-year-old children. These are pretty significant accusations here. And I know that you had looked into that took it very seriously, and were doing some investigation about that. So what I want to ask is, what did you find out? Was that accurate? Did this actually happen, these accusations, or was it more false rumors being passed around and exaggerated and didn't actually occur?
Well, Mr. Welch, thank you for the question. First of all, we do have a number of student-led clubs participate in activities, including the homecoming parade at that particular high school.
Mm-hmm.
You may recall that last month a student spoke to you in public comment. My recollection is that student's depiction of what really happened was consistent with the investigation that our staff conducted, which is in essence that there were no inappropriate activities as the float passed through any elementary schools. I can't speak to any particular student because we are always very
Sure.
careful to protect privacy, but those activities did not happen. Student-led clubs at the high school level do exist, and they are, again, by definition, led by students. And so there will often be conversations between students related to the student-led club activities. Our staff monitors those student-led clubs, but the students lead that. We do, every time there is a complaint, investigate. One of the struggles is you'll occasionally hear those rumors that swirl, and it's that proverbial telephone game
Sure.
that knows no generational bounds, has been going on for years. And so often we'll hear rumors that we investigate. Ultimately, to your point, we found no inappropriate activity by our high school students at the elementary schools.
And when you say you found no activities, how did you investigate? How were you able to tell? Did you have observers there that you were able to talk to?
Our human resources staff investigated, and that included interviewing people who were there. There were bits and pieces of the photos, those kinds of things. But largely, in a case like this, when something occurs outside, it includes interviews with the staff members who were watching the floats, parents who were participating, driving the floats, et cetera.
Now, I think in one case you may have even said there was law enforcement there. There was one of our school resource officers that was actually present at it who you were able to interview, and they said that they did not observe any of those accusations.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And again, it's unfortunate that we have to, that we have adults creating these rumors. I think it's even more fortunate when we have elected officials who encourage those rumors and sign on to it as well. At the end of the day, these are kids. And whether you agree or not with the organization's goals or what is immaterial, as you said, this is legally protected organizations who have a legal right to participate in these groups. So thank you for that follow-up and correcting the record on that, those false accusations against those children.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cash?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Golden, I just have a couple of questions. You said we finished the quarter with 3,500 teachers?
A few more than that, yeah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
How many teachers are we still short?
If you would, Ms. Hall, can you speak directly to that? I will say, generally speaking, special education remains a challenge. Ms. Hall?
Just a minute, Vicki.
I don't have an exact number for you right now, but I can tell you that we are down a few, less than 10, in elementary grade level positions. And then as sometimes normal for us, we are still struggling to fill some of those hard to fill areas in the secondary level. primarily the areas that have been the hardest struggle for us have been world language, in particular Spanish. And then again, this year, we've really noticed school psychologists have been very challenging to find.
And if I may, Mr. Cash, to that, the State Department of Education leadership is really active in trying to find solutions statewide. I actually had a conversation with one superintendent who said something to the effect of, we're looking to see who's leaving one district so we can hire them at our district. That's where we are right now with the number of teachers in the state with our growth. Tennessee is producing fewer teachers than we need.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, you and I had a conversation about kids going into ISS, into detention, SSI, earlier. How many kids in the system are getting this type of treatment?
Well, so number one, I can't speak to any individual child, but I can tell you that students who have needed, based on our obligation to follow the federal court order, it's in single digits district-wide. We had a few thousand religious exemptions, but those who have taken the stand of, in essence, I disagree with that federal order and I'm sticking to it, have been fairly small numbers. To answer your question, less than 10.
So, is there nothing we can do better in this situation?
Well, number one, we have to follow the federal court order.
Well, I know
and
we've got a
honor that.
federal court order.
So second, because of where we are, because
Right.
we're in this country. Second, the making sure that we give as good quality instruction as we possibly can is a constant effort. And so we do have teachers who are in-school suspension teachers who do that daily work. The quality of it, I'm just going to be frank, is not the same as physically being in a classroom. We don't have...
Ma'am, you're out of order.
We don't...
Ma'am, deputies, deputies, would you please escort her?
No, I'll leave happily. Come on, guys. No one's teaching my kids. No one's in there talking to them. They're being told to be quiet.
Ma'am.
We don't have the capacity for someone who elects not to be there to give them that same quality instruction. We just don't. And the state, we had that tool that was originated last year with remote learning. The state has specifically allowed that for those who are being quarantined on COVID, and that's the scope of what's allowed there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have particular choices, but they're really narrow in their scope.
Well, where I'm thinking also, is this the way children that opt out of some of the curriculum, are they going to get less education and less instruction because they're not, in the main classroom?
For a child or a student whose parent opts them out of a particular lesson, another lesson is created for them. And that's not an across the board, you're out of a particular classroom a whole day, like we have that obligation related to the federal order. So they will have a separate, different piece of instruction. Somebody who's not in the classroom is still getting the same assignments, the same nature of assignments, so it is very different. Those two issues are very different.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown has a question. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to go back to the question that Mr. Welch raised a couple of comments ago. And I'm going to play the new guy card here, so bear with me. Generally speaking, something that gets the amount of attention that issue got means that something took place. Now, we've heard you say, Mr. Golden, that was what took place was deemed to be appropriate or was not deemed inappropriate, maybe is a better way to say it. So for my benefit, maybe the benefit of others, can you, instead of talking about what didn't happen, can we talk about what actually did happen? What did you all determine actually did occur?
Thank you for the question, and Mr. Welch actually mentioned it. There was what we call public display of affection, but not at the elementary school. And he mentioned the peck on the cheek, and we did find that, which is not within our school rules.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we have any other questions. Let me just take a quick look around. No, I believe that's it. Okay, so now we are on to the board chair report. And the entirety of my report tonight is to introduce and welcome our new school board member, Mr. Josh Brown, who will be fulfilling the unexpired term of Brad Fiskus, who has moved out of state. Some people had questions about the process, so just want to make sure everybody knows that the county commission does make the recommendation and the vote, and then their vote results in that appointment. And so Mr. Josh Brown is who has been appointed to serve on our board until September, which will be the end of this term for District 4. And so, Josh, if you wouldn't mind, if you just take a minute here to introduce yourself to everyone, and let me turn your mic on here. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry I can't be there in person with you all, but I'm excited to be part of the board and excited to be at my first meeting, even though it's virtual. As you may have heard in the past couple of weeks in the various news stories and other attention that was generated around my nomination and appointment, I am a lifelong Williamson County resident. Went to Trinity Elementary and Page Middle and Page High myself. I have 3 children who are now at Trinity, so it's kind of interesting to have your kids attend the same school that you attended, and frankly that my mom actually attended Trinity Elementary as well. So it's I feel like I have that connection to the school system, and looking forward to making contributions to the discussions and the decisions that the board will make. I thought back on this, that one of my first actual civic engagements as a teenager was getting involved in supporting someone who was running for, back then when superintendents were elected, getting involved in helping support that person who was running for Williamson County school superintendent. And I remember attending the meeting when the vote was taking place and helping to support that person. So it's kind of come full circle. I'll just say this, I've observed over the years a lot of different school board proceedings and discussions and debates of various kinds, and obviously I've observed over the last 18 months. And maybe one of my takeaways is that policy does not have to be personal. For maybe the one person left in the world who doesn't know this, I do work for Pfizer and I do government relations. And being around government at different levels over the last, most of my career actually, in different capacities, I've certainly seen how politics and policy can become personal, but it doesn't have to. So hopefully, my contributions to this board will reflect that, and hopefully our discussions collectively will reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and welcome. Moving on, our next item is new business, and all of these new business items tonight pertain to the 2021-2022 school board budget. The first item is the approval of the general purpose school fund carryover early literacy grant. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a carryover from unspent funds from last year into this year's budget. We do recommend approval of that accounting move.
Board members, do we have a motion to approve? A motion from Mr. Mitchell. Is there a second? 3 seconds at once. A second from Mr. Wimberly. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, board members, please cast your votes. And Ms. Apria and Mr. Brown. Ms. Apria, I'll let you go first this time, if you'll tell us how you vote, please.
Yes.
Ms. Apria votes yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brown votes yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the General Purpose School Fund Transition Grant. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a similar funding request related to the state transition grant that is actually on an October 1st calendar. And so because of that, we do have that need to make an accounting change for this year. Recommend approval.
Do you have a motion to approve? Mr. Cash makes the motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Hall makes the second. Board members, any discussion? I see no one asking for discussion. Board members, if you'll please cast your votes. Mr. Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Apria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Brown votes yes. Ms. Apria votes yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, board members. The next item is the General Purpose School Fund School Health Donation in the amount of $8,000. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to acknowledge receipt of a gift from Williamson Medical Center and to place it in the appropriate category for a bus wrap to promote physical activity and overall health through our coordinated school health program. Recommend approval.
Board members, motion to approve by Mr. Mitchell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wimberly. Board members, is there any discussion? I see no discussion. Board members, please cast your votes. Mr. Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Brown votes yes. Ms. Apria?
Yes.
Ms. Apria votes yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. And our final agenda item for the night is Education Capital Projects Fund, an intercategory Summit High School addition. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a transfer from contingency to building improvement structural to cover the bid on the Summit High School extension. This is actually the second significant project that we have seen reflecting the increase in construction costs just in these past few months. This is just under a 7% increase over what we had projected based on pre-COVID numbers. We do recommend approval of this.
Board members, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Cash makes the motion to approve, and Mr. Mitchell makes the second. Is there any discussion, board members? If not, please cast your votes. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Mitchell, I didn't see that. We do have a discussion item. Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Golden, can you explain this change order, please?
Yes, sir.
And the amount, I guess.
So the total, thank you for the question. The total contingency request to transfer into the appropriate line item for the Summit project is $575,000. The low bid came in at 8.3 million or so, and it's around 575,000 more than we had actually projected. Just as a reminder to you and for those who don't know, we work through basically an annual schedule for these construction projects. What we have found just in these past few months is that as a result of those combination of market factors, whether it's increased construction in this area, demand for labor, et cetera, there has been an increase in projects. We've seen it, some of our peers have seen it, and when this particular project bid came in, we needed that additional $575,000 from contingency. Now, the county commission ultimately makes funding decisions, but because we have sufficient funds in contingency, this would take a board vote and does not require commission approval because they have already sufficiently funded this possibility.
Thank you. So the county commission has already voted and approved a set amount for this project. Is that correct? And then the bids ultimately came in over what that amount was.
That's correct. And so generally speaking, in the past few years, I'm talking about the last 2 to 3 years or so, we have ended up with a small surplus from some of our projects. That the bids have been lower, very competitive, and we've done a good job of value engineering. In this particular case, and this is the second one, you may recall that the Ravenwood project had a very similar result, almost identical projects. We do need money from contingency. Final thing I want to mention, November is the month on our annual agenda where we discuss our 5-year capital plan with project estimates. I do expect that our project estimates on that 5-year capital plan will be some small percentage higher than we currently have on there because the market has changed. What we don't know is this a permanent market change or is this something that's temporary? But what's good about this is we do a competitive bid structure and we go with the lowest and best bid. So we do reflect market in that sense.
So last follow-up here. Are we planning to modify our approach of requesting for these capital funds from the county so we can, what's allocated is more in line with what the current market is bearing for these type? And I guess the second question I would have there is how many more of these bids do we have in the pipe that we've already had county funds allocated for and we're at risk of dipping into our contingency funds again?
I have had this discussion with county commissioners. We've had education committee meeting and budget committee meeting. We have heard that other county projects are seeing similar issues. So those members of those committees are aware that this is where the market is. As I sit here, I will make sure that Mark Samuels gives you a list. You've seen some of the projects that he gives you prior to the work session with a list of projects. Generally speaking, those projects have already been bid out, but our 5-year capital plan has a laundry list of what we anticipate. Give you a couple of examples. We do project that the elementary school projects, both in the Triune area and the Spring Hill area, will reflect this market because those have not been finalized. And those are larger projects.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown has a question. Mr. Brown, your microphone is on.
My question is unrelated to this, so I can wait till this is over if you want.
If I may, Madam Chair, I may be speaking a little bit for you. This is the last item on the agenda.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, this is the last item on the agenda, Mr. Brown, so we will pick up your question after this vote.
Well, if I may.
You want to do it now?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I think we better, yeah, because we'll be done.
Then we're going to adjourn.
Okay, please go ahead then, Mr. Brown.
Okay. So my question is regarding the TSBA. And again, playing the new guy card here a little bit. There's been an awful lot of news about state school board associations making decisions to distance themselves from the National School Board Association. So I guess my questions are, what dues do we pay to the TSBA? And I think I also read, that's one question. The second question is, related to a statement I saw about the TSBA, quote unquote, distancing itself from the National School Board Association. So do you all know what that means in terms of what the distancing themselves involves? And has there been any discussion around that? What other states are doing relative to what TSBA is doing, and then our relationship with TSBA?
Mr. Brown, I can answer the first part of your question because I do serve on the TSBA State Board. So before this most recent news item about the National School Board Association, the Tennessee School Board Association had decided to withdraw from the NSBA, and that decision was made earlier this year. And the reason was that TSBA felt like that our needs weren't being served by the National School Board Association, and that state leadership felt like that they were moving away from the primary goal of public education, which is to educate children. So it's not just distancing. We actually withdrew several months ago, along with several other states. Does that answer your question?
That does. And what do we as a district pay in our dues to the TSBA?
Do we have those exact figures
No.
here?
So that information, I don't know that any of us have at our fingertips right now, but we can email that to the board members once we have it.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. King, were you trying to say something? Okay. No. So we do have a motion. We did have a second, correct? So we've had discussion, and now it's time to vote. Ms. Apria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, board members. That concludes our meeting. The meeting is adjourned.